Greetings and salutations. This is Abe Abdelhadi with The Bitter Truth, where we may not have all the answers, but we're going to ask a hell of a lot of questions. If I seem a little subdued, it's because I'm doing this one by myself. Tonight won't be super long. I know it's Christmas time and holiday time and Hanukkah time and Kwanzaa time, and everyone's got stuff to do and shopping to partake in. So, I just want to have a little side chat here, and just wrapped up an interview with the great Bill C. of Divine Weeks, and thought I'd stick around and some extra thoughts on some other things in life. But my conversation with Bill got me thinking, and I've been thinking a little bit. I mean, we've been getting a lot of streams, so I appreciate the support of the show. At first, it was a lot of my friends, which is great because they know me, but getting that. There's some folks that don't know me, don't know who we are, what The Bitter Truth is about. Figured give you a little background, and you might be able to understand some of where the points of view come from. But bottom line, man, I'm not your garden variety American. I don't think anybody is. Son of immigrants, me and my brothers, cousins, my dad's an Arab and married a Brazilian woman in Brazil, and then came to America, had his kids, and so we got a unique perspective coming up. Just growing up in South Central and then living in LA for most of my life until I came here to Austin a few years ago. Just got a different perspective on things, and I think all of us kind of evolve as life goes on. I've always been kind of the same person in a lot of ways, but then in a lot of ways, I think I've just been, back of the Conga Line. Sometimes I get hit up on Facebook. I've been on it for so many years now, and it'll say, "Hey, you wrote this in 2008." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. At least I know I was kind of the same asshole 10 years ago, so yay." But then there's just some things that, you evolve and you live to learn. And what I would like to, impart is just everyone's got a different background, right? We all come from different places. I mean, I was, raised, as I said, in LA, and, Arab dad, Brazilian mom, and they had a weird arrangement, right? So the boys were going to get these Arab names and quote unquote be Muslim, and the girls could be like whatever, because, Arabs are that way with their kids. They really don't care about the girls as much as they do about the boys. So, unfortunately for my mother, she had 4 boys, and so here we are. But all that to say that, I think if you listen to the episode, Why Won't Jesus Pick You Up at the Airport? I spoke with Ojo Taylor, who is a former Christian band guy who now teaches music over at James Madison University, and we talked about our different journeys coming up, pretty religious, pretty Christian, and then, kind of breaking off on our own in our latter years. My situation was a little different because I kind of stuck around behind my dad's back to get religious, which is, most kids do that to do drugs, and I did it to get religious. But I'm grateful for that background. It made me literate. It made me read. Luckily enough, I had some mentors when I was coming up in that faith that taught me how to study other religions and not just study our thing, right? Learn how to, communicate with the Jehovah's Witness, learn what they think, learn what the Mormons believe, learn what the Jews believe or the Buddhists, learn what they believe, so you don't sound like an absolute asshole when you're talking to them, right? And that is not exactly how it was taught to me, but yeah, that, just the whole evolution of things. You start getting I started getting in my late 20s, playing a couple of bands. I was working at a record company, worked at another one, and just going through life, growing up in LA, you meet all kinds of people, and so you start to realize that there are other folks out there, and that there are things that happen. And I think if one thing, like when I was a kid, when I was religious, there's just some stuff that I wouldn't be proud of now that I did. I was super pro-life when I was a kid, up until probably my mid-20s when I started thinking about leaving the church. And, not that I would necessarily condone abortion, like everyone should go run out and get one, but the choice must be there, right? And I probably existed on the opposite end of that spectrum until my late 20s, and now I'm kind of where I'm at. But the one thing that I've discovered is, regardless of your stripe, and Joe Taylor on that show that I mentioned earlier, he made a really good point, because Joe's a very kind, compassionate, considerate guy, for example, and even though he's no longer a quote-unquote Christian or goes to church, he's still that guy. So it's not that, religion or political belief or anything makes you a better person. You're already a better person. It's really what you choose to believe. And I think where a lot of us kind of, find ourselves behind the eight ball a little bit is that we think that we have to change who we are to fit a belief structure. And that's not necessarily true or fair, because I think, psychologically anyway, tests have shown that, by the time you're 22, 23 years old, your self is fully formed. Okay. And being fully formed, I'm taking a sip of beer. Your self is fully formed. And that being said, you could be a Republican one year and a Democrat the next year, but who you are and what you value and what you think is a good way to be to others, that doesn't change. I mean, I know some amazing people that are religious, and I don't think religion made them that way. They're just amazingly good people. I know some Christian folks that walk their walk, and they're not asshole hypocrites, because that's just who they are as people. And I believe if they were atheists, they would just be really kind atheists, because they have compassion for other people. They can empathize with people's suffering. And I think what a lot of us have the tendency to do is to attach our belief or our label, and we say that's what we are. And no person is one thing. That's something we really have to understand about ourselves. No person is one thing. I mean, some days I'm the sweetest, kindest person, ever. And then there's some days where I'm just like the biggest jerk ever. And because I'm the jerk, and I'm also a good person. And that's who we all are. But when we get into these political discussions and you see these right wingers, justifying, tear gas and whatever else with immigrants at the border, and then the first thing they say is, "Well, Obama did it." Yeah, I know Obama did it. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean you get to be a person who is going to be an absolute dickhead to innocents trying to get asylum because Obama did it. That doesn't make it correct. So where is this thing in our personality and our makeup that is just so willing to create the other? As long as they're the other, we don't. They're the Muslim. They're the they're the Mexican. They're the illegal immigrant, right? And and we create these stupid, bogus arguments to justify hatred. Why is it so easy to hate? Why is it so difficult to actually start to love on people, love one another? It's Christmas time. I might be getting a little misty. What is that word? Whatever it is. Excuse me. But the whole point of it is that, we just have to start acknowledging kind of who we are. I mean, I came up religious and did the obnoxious religious crap, and I was in Campus Crusade for Christ when I was in college. I know people don't like to admit that kind of stuff, but it's been a lot of years. And then I got into some regular bands and started hanging out with regular people, and started getting my horizons broadened, just not folks at church. I started meeting gay people, and guess what? They weren't bad. They were nice people. They minded their own business and went to work and had partners and bought a house and had cats and dogs and whatever else. And, some of them even had kids, and some of them are better parents than parents I know that are quote unquote heterosexual. Not like that's supposed to be a better set of parenting. Who's to say? But moving forward and getting, through some other stuff, I just realized that, especially in the last few years, when I say that, I'm behind on a few things, I've always been, I would say, socially liberal. And up until maybe 15 years ago, I would say I was fiscally conservative. And now I have completely just redefined what fiscal conservatism means. Fiscally conservative to me means you don't spend $1.2 trillion on defense, bombing the fuck out of the entire planet while we have starving people here in America. And the very same right wing that says we shouldn't be helping these immigrants, we should be helping our own people. We don't help our own people. So that's where you're back at the Conga Line. Because if we were helping our own people, we wouldn't be bombing the fuck out of everywhere else. And right now we support 73% of the world's dictators. That's a fact. It's not the Abe Gazette. Look it up. And we're the number one purveyor of terror in the world. Why? Because we keep bombing the fuck out of everybody that doesn't remotely agree with us. And so now we're in this position where we've got a demagogue president who, as soon as he tweets something, makes it so, which is scary. And, beg your pardon, which is scary. And it doesn't bode well for a society that is trying to be enlightened. And here in the West, we have enough money. We've got enough resources. The internet is chock full of information that isn't censored. Not all of it's censored yet. And yet we still keep doing the same stuff and living in fear. And as long as fear is that filter, we're always going to be at the back of the Conga line. As long as we're always going to demonize the other and not try to understand and always assume that people are trying to kill us, we're always going to be failing. And if you look at the language that we've been using, say, with the Arab world, and by the way, only 20% of the Muslim population is in the Middle East. 300 million Arabs are Muslim out of 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. So you're looking at Malaysia, Indonesia, Pakistan, ton of countries, ton of Muslims. They're not all Al-Qaeda. They're not all ISIS any more than, all Christians are the KKK. And it really boils down to that. And I think we need to start looking for other things to point at versus our own fear. If we keep living in fear, that being a filter, we are pretty much lost because there's never been a good decision made out of fear. I'll say that again. And I'm quoting Henry Wallace, by the way, who was Roosevelt's last VP before Truman. We have never made a good decision out of fear. We never do. Look what we did after 9/11. We completely sold our rights for the illusion of safety. And are we any safer? No. I mean, we haven't had any terrorist acts since 9/11. A couple of crazy shooters who claimed an allegiance to, Al-Qaeda or whatever. But really, all our mass shooters have been white guys. All our terrorist activity in this country has been deranged white guys. So we didn't make the world a perfect place. There is no utopia. So while the so-called liberal likes to think that if we had XYZ, we would have utopia. No, we wouldn't. If we had single payer for all, that'd be awesome. Still not a utopia. I'm dealing with human beings. If college was free, like it used to be when I was a kid, awesome. Guess what? No utopia. We still have to deal with human beings. If we got rid of, half of the defense budget and applied those monies to our society and investment in our society, no utopia. We still have human beings, but we would be better off. Right now, we support the banks to the tune of $83 billion a year. And if you even remotely think you're conservative, that number should piss you off. $83 billion a year is college for everybody every year. And this is after we've given the banks $29 trillion at zero interest that they're able to return or loan back to us. So anyway, little digression. The point is no utopia. We still have human beings, but we would be better. We would be better off. And that's where, I think most of us are at the back of the Conga line. And I'm going to push that line because it's true. We have this tendency to want to negate things and just say, well, who can afford that? How can we afford that? How can we afford paying banks $83 billion a year? That is socialism for the rich. And then capitalism for the poor means you lose your house because the banks fucked up. We just bailed out GM not too long ago, and they just laid off 15,000 jobs. We should be nationalizing GM because we gave them $50 billion. We should nationalize all the banks for the money we've given them. I'm sorry, but Jamie Dimon, he's a fucking employee. He did not start Citigroup. Didn't start it. Lloyd Blankfein, same thing. Employee. A glorified employee. The CEO of General Motors makes $22 million a year. Fire his ass. Nationalize General Motors. Why? Because we gave them money without condition or penalty. So what that means is we should be taking it back, and we should nationalize all the banks. Since we gave them $29 trillion, fuck it, we should just take it back. And then that way, people that qualify, give them a nice little car loan for 2%. Give them a credit card for 8%. Give them a home loan for 1.5%. Government will still revenue. Person still gets what they need to get. They're paying into the economy, and they also pay taxes. And they get a good credit score, and they function more in society. Versus the usurious rates that we're being subjected to by the banks who are loaning us our taxpayer dollars. Now, I'm kind of going to chide the conservative here a little bit. If you think you're conservative and what I said didn't make sense, then you have your head so far up Trump's ass, it's ridiculous. And for those of you that don't know or don't really study history, Trump is the hairball that the big fat cat finally coughed up after licking its own paws for 50 years. This is the death rattles of empire. We have been just completely sold down the river. And we are all at the back of the I can say we are all at the back of the Conga Line on that one. Folks, this one was going to be short and sweet. That was by design. I may do another one later. I don't like to do too many by myself. We're all like 40 shows in. I've done 3 or 4 of these by myself. I like to have guests. But this I specifically wanted to get off my chest. And if this stuff makes you uncomfortable, it's supposed to. Sleep tight.